Welcome to LA Radio Sessions. I'm your host, Mike Stark. LA Radio Sessions, it's where we explore all areas of pop culture, broadcasting, podcasting, and webcasting from the beautiful LA radio studio overlooking the LA Harbor at Port Sacal Village in Los Angeles, California. It's a very special edition of LA Radio Sessions, as radio columnist Richard Wagner and myself are joined by veteran broadcaster and former news director at the LA powerhouse KMET in Los Angeles. Ace Young joins us. Ace will take us on a journey that includes everything from an on-air broadcast from Husson's in Ensenada, Mexico, to sparring with former President Ronald Reagan when he was California's governor, to visiting President Jimmy Carter to deliver petitions asking that the U.S. government stop spraying the pesticide paraquat on marijuana plants in Mexico. Those are just a few of the stories Ace will share with us, so stay tuned. This is going to be a good one. Thanks for joining us on LA Radio Sessions.
Right now, 94.7, we're KMET Los Angeles. Ace Young, I can't tell you how good I'm feeling. Well, let me just say, I'm so excited I gotta pee. You know, it's finally a Friday, September 1st, 1978. We've survived the weekend, my friends. The weekend's here. And checking this date in history, it was an estate, 1682. 100 English Quakers, led by William Penn, sailing for America. 1807, a court in Richmond, Virginia, acquitting former Vice President Aaron Burr on charges of treason. And let us not forget September 1st, 1862, liquor rations abolished in the U.S. Navy. No wonder I didn't go in. And on this date in 1945, Japan surrendering aboard the USS Battleship Missouri at the end of World War II. And a thought for the day, the individual who has experienced solitude will not easily become a victim of mass suggestion. Albert Einstein said that. A thought for the day, a look at this day in history. In just a second, the news, the views, the sports, and scholar quiz. 6 a.m. news on a Friday, finally a Friday, September 1st, 1978. Cool.
It's time for another edition of LA Radio Sessions, a very special one this time around. This time I've got the great newsman from KMET, Ace Young. Welcome, Ace.
Hey, Mike, it's great to be here. It's special for me, too, because San Pedro is my hometown, you know?
Now, did you grow up in San Pedro?
I wasn't born here or anything, but I feel like I was born here. I lived here for several years and know my friends here, and this is just home. And some things have changed, but a lot of it's the same, and this is wonderful to come back.
Well, you're living where now?
Sheridan, Wyoming.
Okay. Well, we'll get you back down here to San Pedro. How's that, Ace? That'd be good. And
oh, yeah.
You can come work here at the studio and hang out with us and get back into the radio thing.
Okay.
We always like to start off at the very beginning. Where were you born, Ace?
St. Louis, Mo. And, yeah. I heard some great radio as a kid there. I think that's where maybe the bug began.
Okay, that was my next question.
How did I know that? Great Top 40 radio was WIL and KXOK. And also, growing up, I was a baseball freak, as a lot of kids are. A lot of boys are when they're youngsters. So the play-by-play team of the Cardinals, the announcers were Harry Carey, Joe Garagiola, and Jack Buck. Can't get much better than that. Broadcast on a flamethrower, KMOX. And, for so many years, the Cardinals were the most Western team, the most Southern team. So, consequently, there were Cardinal fans in, Texas and Oklahoma and all over the West and the South because there wasn't a local team.
Right.
So, but I was fortunate enough to live in St. Louis. We moved to California when I was 12 years old, moved to Ventura. And my first jaunt into radio, I guess, well, the very first would be we moved from Ventura to Ojai, and Ojai's famous for a tennis tournament each year. And I let a local radio station know the results of the tennis tournament, and it wasn't too long that I was working at that radio station.
So sports was kind of your first thing into radio?
My first foray into radio, and that station was KUDU, AM and FM. KUDU, the Big 16 in Ventura, 5,000 watts, non-directional, dependent, directional, non-directional. They went back and forth. And a great little station. General manager was Bill Summers. And,
used to manage KLOS.
For years and years and years.
I knew Bill.
Yeah, a lot of folks went through there. At the KMET Mighty Met weekend, I saw Rick Scarry again. Rick and I worked at KUDU and a lot of other folks as well. And that was great. I hadn't even graduated from high school yet.
Right.
And so to work at a real commercial radio station was kind of fun.
So sports, music radio didn't attract you at all?
It all attracted me. It's the magic of radio, you know.
Right.
I just think sports, and soon enough news too, was my foray, my entry into radio.
So from sports you moved to news at the same station?
Yeah, exactly. And then I also did some stuff at another station, KACY in Port Hueneme.
Okay.
And I did that because the chief engineer at KUD was also the chief engineer at KC and probably every other radio station in the area. And he used to go down to do all-night transmitter repairs and stuff. He said, hey, why don't you play some records, spin some records and stuff. So
you did spin records in your day.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So from there, where did you move?
Well, high school and then junior college at Ventura College. I was student body president there. That was fun. And then, you graduate from junior college. Where do you go next? I needed to go to a 4-year school. I think one thing I need to tell folks, it was 1968 at that point, and if you didn't stay in school, you went somewhere else.
Yeah, Vietnam.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
There was something called 2S deferment, so that was a pretty good incentive to stay in school. So I decided on Sacramento State, and once again, it kind of involves my interest in news and politics and stuff because, Sacramento's kind of happening in terms of the state capital. They had a good department of what I was interested in, so majored in government and mass communications, got a BA and an MA there, and during that time, I really got involved in radio. I was the general manager of our college radio station, which since, of course, has become NPR, but this was actually before then. I was the morning editor of a leading AM station, KGMS, Good Music Sacramento. And then a new station had just gone on the air, KZAP. And KZAP and 98.5, brand new. At that point, there were probably less than 20 so-called freeform stations all across the country. And so I got involved in KZAP shortly after they went on the air. I should say, I'll tell you a little story here. This is kind of fun. We had a teletype machine in the Theater Arts Building at Sac State, where I was general manager of the college station. And the AP would give Sacramento, it gave all kinds of news.
Sure.
But among the news were Capitol headlines and stuff like that.
Right.
Anyway, I used those headlines to write stories and used the Watts line at the college. And Watts lines were, people don't realize the term now, but that was free long-distance dialing.
Right.
And that was a big deal.
Sure.
Everyone's got cell phones. You can dial free anytime. But back then, it was a big deal.
That's right.
So lo and behold, I became the Capitol correspondent for, and once again, Sacramento, right? For KGB in San Diego, KHJ in Los Angeles, KFRC in San Francisco, and KYNO in Fresno, and you name it. And I was able to make, depending on how many reports I did and the market size, anywhere from $50 to $100 a week. That was good money then. I probably had maybe 10 stations on the line. So I was making close to $1,000 a week just spending, a half hour of my time and using that Watts line to be the Capitol correspondent.
And you were at what station at that time?
The station was KERS, which was the college station.
Okay.
Like I said, these days it's NPR. But,
right.
Yeah, and it was impressive for these stations to say, for the latest on that, let's go to our Capitol correspondent, Dennis Young, and I'm trying to remember, was it Dennis or Ace then? It might have depended on the station. But,
right.
The old tagline, in Sacramento, this is Ace Young reporting for KHJ 2020 News.
So you made the 2020 news occasionally, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, any of us that grew up in Southern California, KHJ, before KMET, was the station.
Sure. And meanwhile, like I said, at the same time, I became news director of KZAP, and that was freeform stereo, and that was great because you became part of the Capitol correspondence, the Capitol Press Corps, and you had an office at the state capitol, and needless to say, our governor at the time was Ronald Reagan, who of course later became our president, and boy,
there was a lot to discuss.
Boy, was that fun. And I think I gave the governor just grief every day, day in and day out.
Now, KZAP was your first entry into, I guess, alternative sort of radio, right?
1968.
How did you, at that point, adapt news-wise? Because you weren't doing like straight news like you do for KHJ or something. It had to be a little bit twisted, right?
You betcha. Vietnam War was going heavyweight at the time.
Right.
So the Viet Cong were the liberation forces. And just the whole twist of everything else, stories that you wanted to cover. There were prison strikes going on in California. There were huge student demonstrations at People's Park in Berkeley.
Sure.
San Francisco State, SI Hayakawa. And,
right.
I could say we shut down the university system and all of that. And we, of course, we had to tell people what was going on.
Right.
So, and we would trade stories. Just as I told you, I was the Capitol correspondent. I was also making sure that we got the story out and sharing stories with WBCN in Boston or Pacifica Radio and stuff like that elsewhere to get that word out, because we were still the alternative press,
right?
And relatively small, certainly relatively small in terms of the ability to spend money or have the resources of, say, a network. We just didn't have it.
Sure.
So we alligator clips and that kind of stuff.
So from KZAP, where'd you move?
KZAP. Well, I should say I worked weekends at KSAN in San Francisco.
Okay, which also a progressive station. You worked for Tom Donahue?
Yep, I did. He was my he wasn't my first boss because I worked at KZAP, but that was a commune and a collective. So, in a way, we but before we go back further than KZAP, I need to tell you a little story about KZAP too, because it was such great radio.
Oh yeah,
we were a collective. And our air staff had the choice of living downtown in the former lieutenant governor's mansion, which was very cool. It had two sets of stairways when it was built back in the day. The set of stairways that the people who occupied the house used, and then the smaller secret set of stairways that the hired help would use.
Okay.
And the place was great. It was Halloween, and sneak up on people and all
right.
that. Meanwhile, that was the downtown home, and the other folks could live, if they wanted to, out in the country at a place called Big Deal Farm, and that was 56 acres out in Fair Oaks for people familiar with Sacramento, and that's where I lived, and it's a fun place. We had a sheep dip pit that we used as a pool, and somehow we connected up with some great sign painter in Sacramento that did beautiful signs for us. So when people approached the pool, we had a great big sign that says, "Welcome to Big Deal Farm," and the pool rules. We had 3 pool rules, and this was all on the sign: no pushing, no shoving, no clothes.
There you go. Now, there may be some people that don't understand the concept of a commune.
Well, we just decided that we knew a better way of running a radio station. Whole, new music was coming out at this
sure.
point. This was Northern California and San Francisco, and every weekend we go to Winterland or Fillmore West,
right.
and so having the idea of playing those bands, and we had We were on the 13th floor of the Elks Temple. On the 14th floor was a huge ballroom. That was the top of the Elks Temple. We would invite bands up there. And, the Grateful Dead, the Jefferson Airplane, every major Bay Area band you could think of, we played because they loved the exposure. Because, again, this was fairly new then.
Sure.
And to spend some time with some fellow freaks was fun. So KZAP, boy, that was a great place to start, and I appreciate that.
And, of course, KZAP went on for years and years after you left, and I think they're even still on the Internet in some form or another.
Quite possibly.
Yeah.
Quite possibly.
So from KZAP, you went?
Well, I was doing weekends at KSAN, and it was an easy segue because I had graduated from Sac State with my master's, and I said, had a choices. And I said, I need to go to Los Angeles. Tom Donahue, who was the PD at KSAN, was also the PD in L.A. at KMET, and he says, Ace, it's time. And so within a week of graduation, I was on the air at KMET.
Which was in 1971, according to what I have, right?
Yep.
So you worked there from 71 to 83, and then there was a break, right?
Yeah, there was a short break for about a year, I think, around it was the bicentennial time, so that would be 1977 or 1976, I think. And I convinced some friends of mine to put us. I wanted to move to Santa Barbara.
Okay.
Part of my roots growing up in Ojai and all of that kind of stuff, and spent a lot of time in Santa Barbara. So I got a Victorian mansion in Santa Barbara.
Wow.
Arlington and Anacapa had engineers put a great studio in, not quite as fancy as this one, but in the day, kind of nice, and a microwave dish in the roof. No satellites back then, but microwave. And I was able to syndicate my news from my house on 15 radio stations around the state. And that was fun. At that time, I had a choice of going to KMET, but I said, you know what? They didn't want to help me with this project. I'm going to be on K-West. So I was on K-West for about a year. K-West, let's see, K-Tide in Santa Barbara, KFI. I'm trying to think of the old callers aren't around. KFIG in Fresno, Croy FM in Sacramento, Camel in San Francisco, KFMF in Chico, KSML in Lake Tahoe, and so 50 KSJO in San Jose. And so that was fun. Did that for about a year. Economically, it was a terrible mess because it was great getting the station clearances, and that was easy because I think they liked the idea of having me do the news in mornings for them. But we had a sales staff, and they just the idea of regional networks in California had never really been around before, and so KMET was like holding up dollar bills in front of me, and so I went back to the Mighty Met, and that's when we fill out the rest of that era you talked about. Right.
Now, so when you were there the first time, Tom Donahue was the program director, and were there any other PDs there at that time?
I think Donahue, and then I think maybe Sam Bellamy and Tom O'Hare shared the PD position for a little while.
Okay.
And Tom O'Hare didn't get along with Sam, and so Sam became the full-fledged program director.
So when you came back, you were hired by Sam?
I was hired by David Moorhead.
Okay.
Because one of the things I insisted upon that I wouldn't the program director would not be my boss. And
good move.
Yeah, it was great for me because, CBS Entertainment, do they have anything to do with CBS News? No. And so that's always worked out better for me. So I've worked with program directors. Under program directors, not that much.
Right. The relationship with Sam was probably pretty good. Everybody speaks very highly of Sam.
They do indeed. At that roundtable discussion for Mighty Met Weekend, Jim Ladd asked those folks there, when I mentioned a certain name, what do you think of? And the name Sam Bellamy came up, and everyone said, oh, how wonderful she is. They asked me, and I said, she left me alone with the news. I couldn't ask for more.
Yeah, that's what it takes, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Let's digress a little bit and talk about the KMET reunion. You just walked out the door from the KMET reunion up at the Sound.
Yep.
And you came down here, and I just want to get your thoughts on, we'll talk about KMET specifically, but let's talk about that weekend. How was it with Ace?
Well, just, being there and seeing Cynthia Fox walk in the door or see Jim Ladd walk in the door. I hadn't seen these guys, especially Ladd and Fox specifically, in 20, 30 years. It's
that long.
Mind-blowing. And it was wonderful. But, the absence was no big deal because the spirit was still there.
It sure seemed like it.
Still an outlaw, and I've always considered myself a bit of an outlaw. And we've come from different places, but we're back there again, and it didn't take long for that Mighty Met spirit, that camaraderie, just to surface once again.
Now, I spoke to Dave Beasing before this all happened, and I said, are you going to let the inmates run the asylum? And he said, do I really have a choice? And so did it sort of work out that way?
I think so. I saw very little of Dave over the weekend. So very little. And I remember there were times where, there was music for us to play.
Sure.
But I didn't. Jeff Gonzer and some of the other folks chose the music.
Okay.
And in some cases where Beasing put the music in, it was changed because, we're not going to play Heart. This is too MOR or something like that. We need to put something in there that kicks A or something like that. So I would definitely say that, the inmates were in charge of the asylum. I got to pick what news stories I wanted to talk about and what we wanted to say. And, of course, the round table discussion was pretty free form.
Yeah. And you worked with Jeff all weekend. You did 3 shifts plus the round table.
Yep.
How was that experience after all those years?
It's great. When I said goodbye to Jeff, and he said the same thing to me. There was no one else I'd rather do a show with than Jeff, just because we've done it together for so many years. And his shtick and my stupid, I guess our shtick is just fun.
Yeah,
just stupid stuff. Talking about the same. Did we turn the clocks back? Was it Friday night? Was it Saturday night? I'm mixed up, and the corny jokes. It's just fun.
Yeah. And you were talking about your new career as a stand-up comic.
Yeah.
You're working on that?
Oh, yeah.
You worked on it over the weekend. How was the response to those jokes?
Well, if you looked at the email responses, they were good, but they were, I know personally, they were terrible. But, when something is so bad, does it become good?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it does.
When a world famous cartoonist dies, and you're trying to tell him more, but the details are sketchy, let's see. I had how did this one go? I had a pony that I want in Wyoming. I got horses, in the backyard. It's a big deal. And I had a horse that I wanted to bring to a speech tournament because I blew it already because this is not me. I had a pony I wanted to bring to the speech tournament, but I couldn't because he was a little horse.
Okay. Work on it, Ace.
Terrible.
Work on.
I am working on it. Yeah.
So anyway, overall, it was a great weekend. I think the listeners really are the ones that scored on that one because the social networks were just exploding with all of the KMET stuff that was going on.
I couldn't believe the stuff that was going on, and the response was 100% favorable.
That's great.
100%.
All right, let's go back to KMET. You returned to KMET in roughly 85. And that is sort of when KMET really took off. The first day you were there, I mean, it was progressive, it was underground, it was Tom Donahue, it was B. Mitchell Reed. There were some other jocks there. Was Mary Turner there the first time around as well?
Well, what happened is in 71, when I came there, Mary and I are both worked in San Francisco.
Okay.
At KSAN, and she worked at KSFX2, which was the ABC FM. And I was the first, so obviously we knew each other.
Sure.
And I was the first one to work in L.A. And there were trepidations about working in L.A. because San Francisco people don't like Angelinos.
Right.
And I think the feeling is probably mutual. I'm not sure. But so Barry said, are you really going to go to L.A.? You're going to leave this for Los Angeles? I said, yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to try it. And she says, well, I'll tell you what. If it works out, if you like it, let me know, and I'm coming down too.
Wow.
And so I was there for less than a month, and I talked to Mary, and I said, hey, this is awesome. We're having fun. It's truly free form. And she was down here within 6 weeks. We were both on the radio in the Mighty Band.
And that was during your first stay
Yes.
there. And so it was Mary Turner and B. Mitchell Reed. Who else was on the air at that time? Do you remember?
Richard Kimball.
Okay.
Credibility Gap did news in the afternoon.
Great.
We had the Fireside Theater as well. Fireside Theater. What else?
Demento was there at that point?
Demento was there. Jimmy Witherspoon did a jazz
that's right.
show on the weekend. I'm thinking, I don't know. I think Michael Hunter might have, and Michael was.
I think you're right.
And Michael Hunter was program director.
Right.
He was another one of those program directors that I think was in there before O'Hare and Sam was sharing that position.
So you came back when you came back in '85. Mary Turner was still there. Who else was there when you came back? Was Jim on board at that point? Jim Ladd.
Yes. Paraquat was there.
Now you hired Paraquat, didn't you?
I did.
Let's talk about how that came about.
Well, we needed to do sports, alternative sports, and of
Sure.
course, the very first sports we ever did at KMET also happened within a month of my arrival, because I sent letters to every surf shop between San Diego and Santa Barbara and saying, we need surf reports.
That is your brainchild, those surf reports.
Oh, yeah.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, we check the Southern California surf. Got me?
Good afternoon. I'm Gabriel Wisdom with the World Porpoise Society. In San Diego, the surf is 1 to 3 feet and lots of fun at the beaches.
This is Sunset Surfboards in Encinitas, and today we have clear skies and 1 to 3 foot bumpy beach surf.
This is Steve Pesman with Surfer Magazine in South Orange County, where the surf is currently 3 to 5 feet, separated peaky west swell, fairly grassy at high tide in the evening. Other than that, it's just average.
Good afternoon. This is RC for RC Surfboards in Huntington Beach. In a beautiful sunny skies, we have a 1 to 3 foot southwesterly swell of fair shape. Water is 64, air is 70, calm on down, and shake and bake.
Afternoon, this is the broadcasting the surf report for Newport Beach. Hey, it's turned out to be a really great day right now in Newport. The sun's blazing. We got a little bit in the way of swell, but the conditions are kind of bumpy.
This is Mark at the Unity Jacobs Surf Shop in Hermosa Beach. Today we're under bright sunny skies again. It's a great day for the beach. And as for the waves, it's 1 to 2 foot and looking fun.
This is the Riddler at Malibu. The waves today are about 2 feet, maybe some 3-footers on the outside, coming from the southwest direction. There's no wind at the present time, and there's some fun little tube shooters.
Good afternoon, everybody. Louis Rangoon here at the Line Shack at world's famous County Line Beach. Today, there's a south swell coming in at 2 to 3 feet, some 4-foot sets, and unfortunately, it's a little bit blown out, but it is sunny and hot. Hello there. Today in Santa Barbara under sunny skies, we have the west swell running anywhere 1 to 2 feet with little wind. Not really that good for the waves. Go down to the beach.
Ow!
So
Wow.
we got great response, and of course the surf report's become a legend or whatever.
Yeah.
An institution, I guess, is the word I'm looking for. And so we got the surf reports on the air. So that's sports. The other thing we wanted to do is do a lot of motorsports, because that's big, speedway,
Right.
that type of thing. And that began my relationship with Chris Agajanian, who's down here in San Pedro, and so that was important for us. Other stuff, skateboarding and that type of stuff. But we needed to do baseball. The Dodgers were getting set for the playoffs, and the World Series was coming up. And so Pat Kelly
At that time.
and I got to know each other, and we were going to a lot of games together. And I said, this guy's crazy. I like this.
Now, wasn't he working at the sister station at the time?
No.
He wasn't.
I think he might have been doing some stuff for maybe KMPC or something. I'm not sure. Right?
But you met out at the ballpark, according to Paraquat's book.
Yep. And we hired Pat, and one of the best decisions that radio station's ever done.
Did you realize what you'd unleashed?
Absolutely. Yeah. And then all the shenanigans. This was wonderful. I did morning news. Granted, it was alternative and a different style and fun and crazy. But Pat did afternoons, and whatever he wanted to come up with was fine. I mean, it's always been that way. The credibility gap didn't necessarily have traditional news.
Sure.
But we certainly pushed the envelope much further when Pat took over.
But you guys still had the same sort of mentality, the same sort of...
you mean demented?
Demented, or whatever. Those of us that listened loved it. I mean, there was certain strains of journalism that went through both of your work.
Oh yeah, like the paraquat thing.
Sure.
How dare the government spray an herbicide, a pesticide, both, on pot in Mexico that would be coming into this country and poisoning our youth?
Right.
How dare they do that?
That was your story. You broke that story, right?
Yeah.
And then,
but here's the great thing. I might have talked about it, but within hours we were doing it, and Pat was doing it in the afternoon, and Ladd was doing it at night. So yeah, the station broke the story.
Right.
Okay. It was easy for me to doing morning news to talk about it first, but it wouldn't have had legs had it not been for those two gentlemen.
The phone number, once again, for the White House, if you want to continue the call, I think that we've got the message across for the evening, really. I'll give it out once more if there are some diehards out there, and there seem to be by looking at our telephones. So it's area code 202-456-1414. I'll let you know, Southern California, that you have made some noise in Washington tonight. I don't know if they'll come up with a new way to jive us by telling us, well, we stopped paraquat, and then we find out a few months later that they have not. I don't know that they're going to totally ignore us. I don't know what they're going to do, if they will do anything. But you know that you've been heard this evening. That I can guarantee you. And
then Ladd told the story during the reunion that the next day, after he gave out the phone number to the White House, that he got called into the office by the general manager and said,
Hound,
"Don't ever do that again." And then he walks out of that meeting to find that everybody is poised to continue the story.
And Moorhead never hassled me about that. He hassled me about a few other things from time to time, but again, a part of the deal was kind of hands off.
Right. So you never were really given any problems from management over anything you did?
Nothing real major.
Right.
Nothing real major. And if they did tell us to do something, we probably did the opposite the next day.
And how about paraquat? Did he always walk the straight and narrow line, or did he ever take trips up to the office?
You know what? I'm sure he did. Yeah, I'm sure he did. There's no such thing as a straight line for Pat. I mean, just
forward but never straight, right?
And you won't appreciate it now, but back in the day, Pat would break an office chair. An office chair would maybe last 3 weeks, and it would break, just because he was rocking back and forth all the time.
Really?
Yeah, he was that hyper.
Wow.
And and that's it. That just a persona, just how he was.
Naming the days. I didn't know about this till I heard you guys talk about this morning. Hump Day, Titillating Tuesday. What was Monday?
Hooyah Monday.
Hooyah Monday, Titillating Tuesday, Hump Day. Champagne Payday was Thursday.
Finally a Friday.
That was
and a Super Southern California weekend.
That was the brainchild of you and Mary Turner.
Yeah, and I would give Mary like 3/4 credit of that.
Okay,
I really would. We did sit together and map this out, and
right.
But she was the brainstormer in that thing.
Right. Hump Day, as was brought up at the reunion, is a common term now.
It's part of our American. It's probably part of our worldwide lexicon.
There's a commercial out where the camel goes.
The Geico. Yeah. Don't you know it's Hump Day?
Yeah. Wow,
I love it. Yeah,
that's amazing. That's amazing.
It's funny doing stuff in L.A. was amazing because if I did a story. I probably got a call from, for example, and this tells you how long ago this was, from Johnny Carson's producers, maybe once or twice a week. Where did you get that story or whatever? Mind you, this is before the internet. This is before reality TV. There was, before any of those shows went on the air. That's Incredible or Real People. None of that existed. So when you came up with a story, it was a story.
So how did without remembering, we didn't have the internet, we didn't have all those things. So how did you find these stories? How did you research the stories back then for our journalism students who are out there?
I would say a percentage of them came on the wire, and we had AP and UPI and City News Service and Pacifica News Service and Earth News Service and several of those others we subscribed to. But we had also built up a whole string of correspondents all over the country. And we had a map up in the wall. We had stars wherever they were. And, of course, we had the giant Rolodex. So if there were a story wherever, I could call a radio station close by and get the skitty. And these radio stations would be now sometimes half the time they would be a kind of a straight news AM station, because you had to deal with them. Once in a while we tried to find alternative as those became more numerous, to find other news people that might be a little as much deranged as us, and have them do a story for us. For example, in Chicago we had WMET. In New York we had WNEW. In Chicago we had a reporter, W.D. Sanford, and that was his fake name. I don't even know what his real name was. But he would sound like Elmer Fudd.
Oh, no.
And just to have a reporter doing stuff like that.
Just the voice alone. Yeah.
And we had George Garrett in Seattle, and all of these guys loved to be on the Mighty Met. So they would dream up stories, or whenever they had a story, they'd call us.
Right.
And we always had stories that we could send out. And so we would trade stories.
And share them.
And and once again, this was our network. This was our alternative network.
Well, I happen to know one of your correspondents I went to college with, and while he was in college, he was a huge fan of yours. And then after he graduated, he got a job in Santa Barbara. And I know you used him a lot because Ronald Reagan used to go up to Santa Barbara for his vacations. Do you remember the name John Palminteri?
Of course. Yeah. And isn't he still at Channel 3?
He's still up there.
Yeah.
He's a hero in Santa Barbara.
Yeah. John's a great guy.
He went to college. He and I went to college at Long Beach State, and he idolized you in Paraquat when we were in college.
Well, John did news for us, and our other reporter in Santa Barbara was Pat Riley from KIST. And while I remember, how come I remember that, I can't even tell you.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the Paraquat thing one more time. That came to a head with a petition drive that you ended up carrying physically back to Washington.
And with us on the line, we have none other than Ace Young. Ace!
Hey, how you doing, bro?
Feeling good, like it's, 6:01 here in Los Angeles. Now, I know you're in Washington. What time is it?
Well, I think it's 9 o'clock, bro. 9:01.
9:01.
It's a treat. I'm talking to you from my penthouse suite high atop the Sheridan Park Hotel here. And getting ready in a few minutes to go down to normal offices at 23 and M Street, 23rd and M Street, to meet Keith Stroop, who's the president of Normal. Happens to be a good friend of mine also. Then we head over to the White House, bro.
You're going to see Lee.
Your brother Lee Dogoloff, who is assistant director of the White House Drug Task Force. And we got some petitions for him, as you know.
Well, I know, and that really sounds like the hot tip. Now, does Lee know you're coming?
Lee knows we're coming. We've had an appointment. I don't know if he knows we're coming with 270,000 signatures and petitions and letters or not, But he's expecting something, and he probably knows there are a few surprises up our sleeve, because we've talked to him before on the radio, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think maybe you could give us a buzz from Lee's office?
Oh, of course, bro. We're trying to have Lee on the other line, too. I got a problem, though, Bask.
What's that?
I don't know how to tie a tie.
Well, you know how you do it. I mean, I could probably tell you right now if you want to get the tie.
You just kind of loop it over?
You loop it over. Yeah, actually, if you don't know how to tie it, I think that the latest thing now is you just staple it to your chest.
Wrap it around your neck a few times. Right?
That's the one.
So listen, it's a nice day in Washington. The weather people say a high in the mid-80s and kind of humid, which is kind of usual. Summertime on the East Coast.
Uh-huh.
But I'm excited. We're going to party today. The whole thing is a heavy number because there's so many people in Southern California involved. And we're going to drive this thing home at the White House, at Normal headquarters, and we're going by to the California delegation. People like Mr. Waxman, people, Mr. Miller, who have been so involved
we were going all around doing all of these numbers, so to speak, with all of these people, and just driving it home to the folks in Southern California.
And I'll tell you, man, those folks are from Santa Barbara to San Diego, and of course, all the fine members of SCAMS. They've got to be really excited about what you're doing. And that brings up an interesting point. I understand next week now there will be a vote to see if they will stop the funding. And Mr. Waxman was one of the people that authored that measure.
Absolutely. It looks like it indeed. In fact, the thing we got to point out here is that things are happening on so many fronts. You know, tickets, petitions and letters and loads, constitutional tests. I'm sorry, I'm just listening to the radio. Our sister station here, WASH, and the Rolling Stones were here in town last night. They were interviewing folks out in front there. I missed the concert, Basque. I'm sorry. I just, my mind wandered there a little bit, you know?
Yeah, I understand. But, what do you expect? That jet lag, L.A. to Washington, D.C. I mean, geez Louise, Ace.
So anyway, we got petition letters, we got constitutional tests. There's politicking going on, and sooner or later it's going to happen, I think.
Well, we just hope so. And listen, I'll tell you what, we want to hear from you again today, and I'm sure we will. Yeah. Maybe you can give us a call from Lee's office,
Mr. Dogaloff?
Sure.
Don't you like the Dogaloff?
Do it every chance I get.
Listen, Kelly, it's 6 a.m. and we're loose this morning, but seriously, I just want to let the people know this is very serious business, and we're gonna go for it today.
You got it, partner. So listen, Ace, we're going to talk to you then later on, and good luck in Washington, and listen, try to find out how to tie your tie, man.
Yeah, right. No problem. I'll ask the bellboy.
All right now. So we'll talk to you later. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. None other than Ace Young, live and direct from Washington. KMET News Time, 6:05.
Tell us about that. What happened there?
Well, I think UPS trucks actually did the physical labor, but I flew.
Well, using the theater of radio, you took it back there, right?
We figured it out when the trucks would arrive, so I would be there at the White House, and all during this time, I would be talking to, and here's another name out of the blue. I just remember this stuff. Lee Dogaloff, who happened to be Jimmy Carter's drug czar. And during the paraquat thing, I'd call him every day, and we'd get into arguments. How come you're doing it? Well, we need to keep our border secure, or whatever claim they came up with.
Right.
And Jimmy Carter was a Democrat. The drug policies
of all people,
drug policies needed to be changed.
Sure.
So I had no problem with a full-on assault, and so by then. We needed to deliver petitions, and it was SCAMS, Southern Californians Against Marijuana Spraying. We had rallies literally from Isla Vista, UCSB, and Santa Barbara to San Diego. And I went to all of those things. And you can imagine all the campuses. And, it's so funny because I hate to say this, but is there a better promotion for a radio station to be on campuses and for those guys to be promoting you and everything? No, there's nothing better. And the competition, which then was kind of KLOS, K-Rock was, they were on the air, but not the threat that they were later on. KLOS, they didn't have a clue,
Too corporate.
Yeah, too corporate. In fact, when I went to work at KMET, they were running ABC Contemporary News,
right.
And so that was great counter-programming. So, Paraquat took off 2 million petitions. I delivered them to the White House, delivered them to Jimmy Carter, who I got to actually be friends with later on down the line.
So you actually saw Jimmy Carter and handed them over or presented them?
Yeah.
What did Jimmy have to say to you?
And the boxes were delivered into the anteroom, so I'm sure he saw them on the way out, but I let him know. He thanked me. Jimmy Carter's a Southern gentleman, and I didn't have any huge axe to grind with him other than the drug policy and other than Mr. Lee Dogaloff, his drug czar. So, that's the story. And like I said, Jimmy Carter and I got to be friends. We haven't talked about this yet, but during one of my forays when I was not at KMET, I went back to Atlanta to be a program director for CNN Radio's flagship operation.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, and so that was good. We were a fledgling radio network that I got to help start, and I was also in charge of the Braves and the Hawks network, so that was
fantastic.
That happened through us. And I went pheasant hunting with Jimmy on a couple of occasions. I don't have any pictures to document this because I was the photographer taking all the pictures. I have plenty of pictures of Jimmy pheasant hunting,
but none of
with our crew, but none of me because I was taking the pictures.
Yeah. Back to the paraquat thing one more time. It doesn't it, since you were on the front line of all of that back then, isn't it a little disheartening that we haven't come any further with that whole drug issue even today?
Well, I don't know. If you live in Colorado or Washington State, I guess it's kind of nice. It's weird. Even in Colorado, they're talking about taxing the thing 30%.
Right.
And why are people so against marijuana when, you have liquor, which is sold in retail stores everywhere, taxed kind of heavily, but not too heavily.
Right.
It all has to do with politics and racism, from what I understand, early in the 20th century. And all that stuff. Once companies get big and governments get big and payoffs get big, things just get the way they do, which are kind of crooked. I think eventually the pot thing will get larger because there's money in it. It's just a shame that it had to take so long.
Right, exactly. Now, besides the paraquat issue, what other issues or stories did you cover while you were at KMET that come to the top of your mind right off the bat?
Well, I'll digress a little bit and tell you one great story at KZAP.
Okay.
The governor, Ronald Reagan, every Tuesday he had press conferences, and KZAP was just a ridiculous radio station. As loose as KMET was, KZAP, I mean, we did. KMET at least had corporate backing, and KZAP, we got paid every other week so we could collect food stamps. Half the people sold weed, so they keep it on the air. We finally got our first agency account, which was McDonald's, and we had a staff meeting and said, we have to put a vegetarian PSA next to that thing because it's not fair. And of course, within a week we lost that account and blackballed by the first agency we ever had. And before that, we only had water beds and head shops and Tower Records. Russ Solomon was located in Sacramento.
Right.
So that helped us. And Bill Graham in San Francisco, he made sure all the concerts were advertised. So that was loose. One other KZAP story, and then we'll go back to KMET. Tuesdays, the press conferences. Okay, we had a promotion at KZAP, a Ronald Reagan look-alike contest. And the entries were just awesome. And the winner was a pig dartboard. That looked like him.
Nice.
And I presented it to him at his Tuesday press conference amidst the horror of the Sacramento press corps all around me. And and Reagan just went ballistic. He didn't yell or anything, but it was obviously embarrassing for everyone involved, except for me. I was pretty proud of it.
Yeah. So he didn't take it as a joke. He thought it was serious business.
Well, he knew, we were being tailed by the FBI and Sacramento County Sheriff John Misterly. There were tons of people that wanted to close us down because the stuff we were saying and doing had never been heard on the radio before. Leading prison strikes, prisoners at Folsom Prison. They might lose their mailing privileges and not have visitors or something during a strike, but they could listen to the radio. And word was snuck out to us about things, and we were able to put that in the radio. So prison strikes, shutting down the university system during People's Park and San Francisco State, and all of this other stuff. And Mr. Reagan was not happy.
No. And so there was a lot going on at that time on the campuses too.
So back to KMET. Okay. I think my favorite revolutionary story at KMET was the SLA. Patty Hearst was kidnapped and became Tanya Hearst.
Right.
And she started releasing tapes about Sin-Q and all of that. And I had a way of getting those tapes.
Wow.
From the SLA. And we broadcast those on the air live, unedited. And no other station except for Pacifica would even touch those tapes.
Sure.
Because you talk about curse words.
Right.
All over. And we broadcast them, and because it was news.
Sure.
And it was news. And to edit them just was taking something out of that.
And this was at KMET.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
And so we had about 5 of those tapes. And I'll tell you, the FBI, to this day, they don't know how I got them, but they sure tried. I was living in Venice at the time, and I'd come home, and my house would be broken into and everything disheveled. And I didn't have a chance to talk about this during the Mighty Met weekend, did I?
No, you didn't.
But it sure is some interesting history at the Met.
So, in other words, you didn't get hassled by management at KMET, but
they supported me.
You had the government keeping an eye on you then.
Yeah, they didn't like the idea. They couldn't figure out how I got the tapes.
Wow.
And these years later, I still won't tell you. We helped leak the Pentagon Papers from the Rand Corporation in Santa Monica. One of the first things we did was take some Scientology commercials off the air for their, I'm trying to remember the name of their clinic. And they were on our tails, and it wasn't long where, you have to look over your shoulder, you know?
And did you have any serious problems? I mean, you're obviously sitting here with me today, but but you know, a lot of those. It was a different time, and people were serious about that stuff at the time.
Nixon was the president.
That's right.
Enemies list, and so
so no repercussions.
Not long range, but I was kind of used to it because I was being hassled by the sheriff in Sacramento County, and I think the FBI issues probably started in Sacramento during some of those times when we closed down the university. You know, the president of the university system is the governor.
Sure.
And when eventually I graduated, he signed my. It's a strange world, isn't it?
It is. It is.
A strange world.
It is.
But another one of my favorite stories, Wounded Knee. As soon as I went to KMET, Wounded Knee was happening.
Yeah.
And the blockade, and for folks out there, there was a siege on Wounded Knee, and the Indians were holed up, and the FBI had the blockade, and they couldn't do anything. It kept on going on and going on. And finally, the straight media got tired of covering it, so they pulled out all of their Winnebagos, and that's when we moved in. So I hired and remind you, I went from poverty at KZAP to KMET, which was corporately funded by Metro Media. So all of a sudden, I had some coin to deal with.
So you got some resources then.
Yeah. So I hired a reporter, Travis T. Hip, and that was his name. And he went to Wounded Knee, and we had a campaign to help the Indians and stop the blockade. So we had a huge room at KMET filled from ceiling to the roof for donations, everything from food to rifle cleaning kits. Wow. And we had people willing to truck it back to, it's near South Dakota, Nebraska, right on the border there. And from there, it was brought in under the dark of night on backpacks to help the Indian blockade.
Wow. And
so Travis would come out and literally have to go 40 miles away to Mitchell, I think it's South Dakota, to a payphone to be able to give us those reports.
Right.
Like I say, long after the CBS Winnebago or any of the others was gone. And so I was able to not only pay for Travis to do those reports, but once we got them, made sure that KSAN got them, and KZAP got them, because I was at KMET at this point. WBCN got them, and all of those stations, because we had word to give out.
Right.
To get out, you know? So,
you were more than journalist. You were an activist to some degree in your journalism, in your journalistic venture. Now, I
plead guilty to
that. Some would be critical of that.
Well, you know,
in the traditional sense,
I think they were critical of Walter Cronkite when he finally got around to telling people something was wrong in Vietnam.
Right.
I just think the only difference is we were about 4 years ahead of him.
Exactly. And
with all deference.
And while we're talking about journalism and all of that, what is your thoughts on journalism today?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Journalism today. Well, you know, bless our souls, we have the internet. You know, and so everyone is able to communicate and publish. Along with that, comes a lot of interference because there's so much stuff out there.
Distractions.
But it has never been easier. When I ran that network out of Santa Barbara, it cost us thousands of dollars a month in phone lines. And these days, it's free, basically.
Sure.
You can run an FTP site and have the stuff waiting up there for you. So that's kind of neat. So I think the tools are there. I think people can use the tools. Have I seen wonderful things? I guess. When someone really tries to do something real radical, like talk about government needling into things, there's a lot of criticism for that. The guy might end up in Russia or something. It's just so I.
Well, a lot of people would think that today's journalism is more entertainment than journalism.
Yeah, I'm guilty of that too. It's all fun, It's we covered rock and roll as much as anyone, maybe more so,
Sure.
and that's entertainment. It's our culture, but just going around snapping pictures like paparazzi and stuff, I certainly don't see that, and I could care less who's marrying who or whatever.
Exactly.
So that's kind of lame.
Well, let's go to the fun stuff now. Finally, of Fridays. You and Jeff had numerous Finally of Fridays. How did I talked to you about how you survived the FBI surveillance and all of that. How did you survive those Finally of Fridays? Because some of those were pretty wild.
Yeah, I think we just maybe paced ourselves.
Ace, this is it for another fun. Do you believe this one?
I can't believe it. Tell me, if today was a Finally a Friday on a Thursday, do we have tomorrow off or do we have to come in?
Tomorrow is officially a Finally a Friday, too.
Jeez, 2 days in a row.
So, on behalf of Ace Young and myself and Flo and
Eddie.
Thank you. Thank you, Ace.
April Fools, everybody! We'll do it again.
Do you know that Flo and Eddie were the Turtles back in the mid-'60s? I don't want to...
When you were just a child,
When we were all
Gonzer.
just childs, Gonzer.
Ace, you're my dad, so it doesn't matter.
I heard about what happened in the White House.
No.
I know.
No.
So we're going to finish off with Happy Together. We're all going to sing Happy Together. Together.
Can we do that?
You ready, guys? Mark, we need you. We're happening. Okay, hit it. Let's go.
Okay.
Can I join you guys?
Sure, sing along, Jeff. Come on, Jeff.
I can't wait.
And mind you, Finally Fridays were loose with the alcohol, but any day of the week, there might have been 10 jaybirds consumed
in the Paraquat Lounge
before the broadcast day even started.
Right.
So I don't know if you build up resistance or you just get used to it or whatever. So I think the big addition for Finally a Friday would have been the addition of alcohol. And, of course, just lots of amigos out there able to interact with you. And that was the craziness. I mean, the girls taking off their tops, and plus the entertainment we provided. And I remember we were at the country club in Reseda, and the gals who worked the bar and the waitresses would spend all night there from the night before because they could make more money the next morning at 6 a.m. in tips. And they poured more alcohol during those 4 hours than they did any Friday night in the country club's history, So it gives you an idea.
I listened to some of those tapes, Ace, and you're a pretty cool, calm, collected guy.
Always.
But there was a couple times at those Finally of Fridays that it seemed like you might have felt like you were on the edge a little bit.
Well, here's the problem, too. I am a journalist. I really am, and I believe in it.
Right, exactly.
But you get there, I don't have a teletype machine. There's not a typewriter there. And so I kind of throw journalism to the wind. It's a Friday. People can, give me a break.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it again on a Monday, but it's a Friday. And, my favorite Finally Friday story, and I shared it this weekend, was I grew up in Ojai and Nordhoff High School, and a whole bunch of the teachers at Nordhoff ditched to attend a Finally a Friday, which was fine. I invited them on stage and interviewed them all. Steve, how you doing? Craig, it's great to see you. And just because they had to hire, a dozen substitutes that Friday or whatever, so be it. But the problem was Monday, they were back in class, and the students all heard the broadcast.
Oh, boy.
So these guys were
busted.
But, we could talk about it now because, the expiration, we're fine.
Now, am I correct in assuming that there were some of those Finally a Fridays that you actually did bring a typewriter to the event and did try to do some work on stage?
Maybe. I quickly gave up, and after a while I said, this is just dumb. And of course, another greatest Finally Friday was at Husong's Cantina in Mexico.
Oh yeah.
That was a tough one to line up. As opposed to today when there are so many Hispanics around. I think I was probably the only one in the building then that could speak Spanish.
Right.
And so it was my duty to call Telmex and to try to arrange this thing. And it wasn't as easy then. We had to order a broadcast line.
Sure.
And of course it's Mexico, so
right.
you never know. You keep your fingers crossed. And to this day, I'm very happy we were able to do it, and they probably did it on paper clips or something, but it happened. And just to be able to do a Finally a Friday and move our listeners and move the broadcast 75 miles below the border, 200 miles away from our studios.
That could never happen today.
No, could never happen.
First of all, I mean, it could physically happen. It could technically happen. It could be easily done. But liability would prevent any station from allowing that to happen, right?
You got the drug cartels and geez Louise, how would we do that thing? It was so much fun though. The local television station was there, and we were the lead story at the 5 o'clock news. And I had always gone down to Husong's.
Oh, of course.
This was a Southern California tradition, going down there. And the first thing we would do is when we crossed the border is stop at the brewery, not at the brewery itself, but their distribution points, and get cases of Corona for dirt cheaper than water,
Right.
So set the thing up with Husong's, and we were ready to go, and just, boy, was that fun. That was fun.
Then KMET came to an end. Were you there at the end?
Not quite the end. I knew the writing on the wall. I saw it. I mean, they brought me back, and I was doing traffic reports.
No.
I mean, that's just the stupidest thing in the world. Traffic reports on KMET? You got to be kidding.
This was after Sam had left, right?
Yep. And I can't even tell you the program director. I just ignored it. And so as soon as I got there, I saw the writing on the wall, and I was planning my next exit. And, it worked out fine. I all during this time, I was syndicating stuff through Westwood One.
Okay.
And at the time, there was Mary Turner doing
Off the Record.
Off the Record, thank you. Right. Dr. Demento.
Right.
And Ace, doing Ace and Friends. So it was so nice to be able to walk into a market or to a radio station. Oh yeah, we've been playing your show for years. Yeah, and so I did that in Miami, and it was just South Florida. And I was news director for WINZ-FM. We had an AM all news, which was fun, 50,000 watts to play with,
That's where you went to from KMET.
Yeah.
And then when did the CNN thing happen?
That was before. We there were a couple of times that I exited, and actually there were 3 or 4 times when Shadow Stevens was program director. One of the first things he did was fire me and hire Brother John.
Oh.
And there was a picket line around the radio station. And to this day, I just am so appreciative of folks who get so demonstrative about things.
Right.
And within a week or so, I was renegotiating my contract with Moorhead and back on the air. And I think at that point, Shadow said, and again, the idea of a program director dealing with me, once again, had to be reinforced. No, that wasn't going to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so you went to Florida. Then what happened after that?
Let's see, Florida. Oh, and I'll make this quick because it's kind of personal. Got a phone call from my dad. They had retired to just outside Yosemite National Park in California. Hey, you need to come back and stuff. So I moved to Twain Harte, which is a little town in Tuolumne County, to help with my folks who lived within 45 minutes away. Never regret that for a moment.
Nope.
I started a website in 1991, which was the Jurassic Age for internet.
Sure was.
People were still using Netscape hadn't even started
Right.
yet. And that's
Wow.
that's how old that was. So I started a website called Yosemite Gold, and put a lot of great editorial on there, and sold it to local accommodations, and that worked out. It was a great way to make money in the middle of nowhere.
Sure.
You know? And again, cutting edge technology.
Right.
FM wasn't brand new. It had been around since the 30s, I think, but certainly FM Underground or Freeform was brand new. So to be part of that and realize how important that was, and realize how important the internet is, and you know what? There should be a dawning of another age here with all the tools that we have, and I'm just.
Do you see that coming? Maybe.
Well, it would be nice. Love to be a part of it.
How about an Ace Young podcast? That seems to be the thing happening now. How about that?
Don't tempt me, Mike.
I think you'd be good at it. And your old friend Norm Pattis has a network of podcasts.
I know.
Yeah.
Norm and I are good buddies.
Yeah.
Even after I dosed him one time.
You dosed him?
Well, he did.
You dosed him?
He just thought he was eating a cookie.
Okay.
And at Christmas time, people came around selling stuff. And I think I knew these guys from Northern California. This one guy would come down every year, and he was a distributor.
Sure, of course.
So I had this big box of cookies, and so I went around and just opened the lid, and Norm's, this is cool. And a couple hours later, I think he was, he didn't know what he was feeling. And then I think he called in sick the next day. And I think after that, everything was fine.
That's good.
And actually, Norm is fine with it. In fact, that's I've heard him share that story with people.
That's great.
So we can share it with our audience.
That's great. Well, anyway, I think it's time for an Ace Young podcast. I'll help you do it if you want to do it.
Hey, dude.
Well, give it some thought.
Stay tuned.
Well, Ace, I want to thank you for taking the time to come down here and do this. You are one of the reasons, along with a lot of the other folks at KMET, that I got into radio, and I'm sitting in this studio right now is because of guys like you that did radio that meant something, and you don't get that anymore.
Mike, I appreciate those kind words. I'll tell you what, I don't get it, because I just think I'm a kind of a punk, and I just remember when I went into KMET with my tie-dye T-shirt and I saw B. Mitchell Reed there, and I said, boy, this is it. This is the big time.
That's right.
And after that, you just need to go with the gusto. If someone gives you the tools of the fastest car in the world, aren't you going to get in and drive it?
And you had the fastest car in the world with KMET. There's no question about it.
I plead guilty.
Yeah. And talking ratings for a second, we're living in a world where right now, if you have a 5 or a 4 in your ratings, you're in a top 10 station. KMET was 20s, 25, 30s. It was a monster listenership compared to even today. So, yeah.
I'm sure folks are saying, well, what's Ace doing today? I'm living in Sheridan, Wyoming. I'm the PR and marketing officer for a large nonprofit called Renew. I say large by Wyoming's standards.
Sure.
Wyoming's the least populated state in the United States. We provide vital services for people with developmental disabilities and acquired brain injuries. And I believe in that so much. When we deal with people like with Pat, whether it's an illness or a traffic accident,
sure.
Any of us are 5 seconds away from being in a situation like that, seriously. So working for a company that provides those services, and actually it's a nonprofit, and actually more importantly, being able to do it in Wyoming. Wyoming, you might laugh at it, but has money up the gazoo because of mineral funds.
Sure.
And so, in fact, 20% of the budget each year is just interest off money they never touch. So consequently, the teachers in Wyoming are highest paid in the United States. Our services are funded better than anyone else in the United States. So I'm very fortunate to, if I'm going to work for an organization like that, to provide those services, to be able to do it in Wyoming. Plus, do it in a state where it's like no other state. There's no graffiti, no traffic, no nothing, no gangs, no bad air, and all that said, I'd love to be back here in Los Angeles.
Well, the other thing...
I love being anywhere, but
Yeah.
Wyoming is beautiful. You notice when I talked to Melody this morning, their whole book is dedicated to the Bighorn Mountains, to the very place where I live.
Right.
And that's kind of ironic. And that's Melody's and Pat's favorite place on the earth, and I happen to live there.
Wow. And I think what you just said about the government in Wyoming is an advertisement that government can work for all of these people that say government should stay out of everything. Obviously, it's working in Wyoming.
And I'll tell you, we do wonderful things, and to be able to share that with other people, I just love doing.
Yeah.
So it's probably the most rewarding job I've ever had. It's not the most fun. It's not I didn't make as much money, but just feeling good at the end of the day and feeling good to come back on a Monday. I think I always did at KMET too. Maybe they're tied, but I really enjoy what I'm doing.
I think based on your broadcast history, it's really no surprise that you're doing the job that you're doing now. So thank you again, Ace, for everything you've done and continue to do. And we'll be looking for that podcast.
Yeah. Hey, it's great to be in Pedro.
All right. Thanks, Ace.
My pleasure.
KMET News, Sports, and Scholar Quiz at 6 a.m. More at 7 with the updated Safe at 6:11 and 1/2. I'm Ace Young. We're KMET, informing Southern California, now rocking the Southland. Finally, a Friday, we welcome in the hit music of Jeff Gons.
I'm not ready, and I have no hit music. Dusty had a dirty magazine here. I was staring at the cover. 6:11. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, it's Aces.
My thanks to Richard Wagner and Ace Young for joining me on this special edition of LA Radio Sessions. Please let us know what you think of the show by liking our Facebook page, visiting our website at laradiosessions.com, or dropping me an email at mike@laradiostudio.com. Thanks for listening. Stay tuned. More to come.